It's Friday, August 20. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness last night announced no movement days aimed at slowing the third wave of the COVID-19 virus on the island. He made the announcement at a virtual press brief due to concerns about the island's positivity rate, which is now hovering at 41.9%. Confirmation of the more virulent Delta strain on the island has also piqued concerns.
We have established that there will be 7 no movement days. And these will be Sunday, August the 22nd, Monday, August the 23rd, Tuesday, August the 24th, Sunday, August the 29th, Monday, August 30th, Tuesday, August 31st, and Sunday, September 5th. The normal curfew hours, which would then apply to the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday following these no movement days, will be 7 p.m. nightly until 5 a.m. the following morning on days other than no movement days, except Saturday, which will be at 6 p.m. So we understand that the lead time is short, and when we tighten the hours, as would be expected, everyone is going to shop in a precautionary way. Let me get an extra this and an extra that, and let me go to the supermarket, even if I don't have to, just to be sure. And so you will have some congestion on the road as everybody tries to get home or try to get the last minute supplies. So we have considered that, and we have extended, but just for this Friday and Saturday, we have extended the hours to allow persons to be able to stock up for the no movement days. So tomorrow, Friday, August 20th, the curfew will begin at 9 p.m. And on Saturday, August 21st, the curfew will begin at 8 p.m.
The Prime Minister says Jamaicans should work from home on the no movement days.
But it doesn't mean that you should not be working from home. So we are expecting you, as many of you who can work from home, to continue to be productive, to do your work at home.
Mr. Holness adds that the vaccination program will continue even on no movement days.
Despite the extended curfew hours, we want the vaccination program. It's very important. Despite the no movement days and the extended curfews, we want the vaccination program to continue. Certain vaccination sites will remain open during curfew hours and on no movement days. Persons with appointments to receive a vaccine will be allowed to do so during curfew hours. Persons will be required to present evidence of the appointment. They can show their text message if they get one, or the email. If they're going for their second shot, they can show that their vaccination card. Obviously, this is not a wholesale extension. Your direction of travel must be going to a site. The police will know where the sites are, obviously. And you can't tell the officer at 8 p.m. that you're going to the vaccination site that closes at 4.
Churches will also be affected by the lockdowns.
On Sunday, August 29 and Sunday, September 5th, places of worship will be allowed to have 20 persons physically present in the church. Persons who leave home on these days, these 2 Sundays, will have to carry on them their ID, obviously, but you would recall in a previous order that we had gazetted a form which we agreed with the churches, which would have the names of the persons who are allowed to travel during the curfew hours to go to church in order to allow for the transmission of online services. The Sunday movement for worshippers will not be allowed for this Sunday. So this Sunday, the first of the no movement days, it will be a strict no movement day. So the measure of the gazetted form will not apply on this Sunday, and we are not expecting that there would be any persons traveling at that point.
According to the Prime Minister, the limit for weddings is now 20 people. No funerals will be allowed.
No funeral services will be allowed during the period August 25th to September 7th, 2021. You'll recall that we had allowed funeral services in the church. We're going to restrict that now, so there will be no funeral services in the church. We're not going to go to the extreme that we had to do in March, where we had prohibited burials. So burials between August 25th and September 7th, 2021 will be allowed, but a maximum of 15 persons will be allowed at the burial, including mourners, officiating clergy, grave diggers, and undertakers.
The country has been experiencing what's being called the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, with more than 500 new cases daily. The confirmation of the Delta variant has also spurred concerns. According to the Centers for Disease Control, CDC, the Delta variant causes more infections and spreads faster than early forms of COVID-19. Schools are still set to open their doors in the first week of September. However, Education Minister Favour Williams says while vaccinated students will be eligible immediately for face-to-face classes, those who are unvaccinated will have to join classes online. She addressed the matter at a press conference on Thursday.
And so parents, this weekend is yours. We expect you to turn out in your numbers across Jamaica. Help us to get our schools open again face-to-face. Help us to hear the joys and sounds of our children in the school, as they go to and from school and as they are in the classroom. Of course, you still have to observe all the protocols, especially on the way to school and back home. The mask, the hand sanitizing, the social distancing, in and out of the classroom.
Minister Williams says that the need for children 12 and over to be vaccinated in order to resume face-to-face classes is the main reason for the age group vaccination blitz, which starts this weekend. The arrival of 204,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccines on Thursday will aid this effort.
We did a survey to find out kind of where's the leaning of our parents with regards to this. And we're happy to report that when asked if they would give consent for their child to take the 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine 3 weeks apart, approximately 59% of parents are willing to have their child vaccinated. More important, when asked if they accompanied their child to be vaccinated and they as parents are not vaccinated, would they be willing to be vaccinated along with their child? And 64% of parents said they are willing to be vaccinated along with their child or children.
Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, who was also on hand at the press conference, gave more information on the planned event.
We begin their vaccination with the Pfizer vaccine on Saturday, and I'm speaking now of the 12 to 18 years old, Saturday, August 21st, and into the next Tuesday, August 24th, as a start, with a focus on our young people 12 years and older with comorbidities. This is for this weekend, as well as those 15 to 18 years across the board. The 15 to 18 years for us are very important because they have exams coming up, and we want to give them an opportunity to get their vaccination, the first dose and the second dose, prior to them resuming face-to-face classes again. The Pfizer vaccine, which arrived today, and we say thanks to the United States people and government, is proven to be safe and effective and is approved for use in children and teens. And we are available, the ministry that is, to provide additional information.
Leaders of several religious groups are urging Christians and non-Christians alike to accept the COVID-19 vaccines. They were speaking at an event organized by Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in New Kingston as part of the government's countermeasures against vaccine and COVID-19 misinformation. Melvin Pennant reports.
The church leaders are arguing that vaccination against COVID-19 is a health issue and not a religious one.
Everything rises or falls on leadership, and I am of the firm conviction that leaders should lead from the front. And that's one of the reasons why I took the vaccine. I also took the vaccine simply because I believe in looking at the data, and I believe in doing research and looking at what is measurable before making a decision. So I am here today with my ministerial colleagues to say to us that we have come to encourage Jamaicans to examine the data, to do your research, to check with your medical doctor, and to consider seriously taking the vaccine.
President of the Jamaica Evangelical Alliance and Senior Pastor of Hope Gospel Assembly, Reverend Dr. Gov't. Reverend Gov't, in giving his approval, was critical of other religious representatives who have anti-vaccine sentiments.
I have been bombarded every day by persons who say to me, my pastor told me, if I take the vaccine, it means that I'm putting my faith and trust and confidence in the vaccine. That's very sad. Because, you know, the Word of God says that faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. And salvation, in and of itself, is not a matter of feelings. There are three coaches, and the number one coach is actually facts.
President of the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Pastor Everett Brown, says his church have always been people of science and healthy living.
As a Christian and as a citizen of Jamaica, I have a moral responsibility to encourage my fellow Jamaicans and members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to take the vaccine. I do this because the Seventh-day Adventist Church, prior to COVID-19, have always encouraged the members of the church to live healthy, to practice the basic laws of health, but recognize that disease is rampant in our community and around the world, and hence when one is infected or affected, one ought to seek medical help.
Anglican Bishop of Jamaica and the Cayman Islands and the head of the church in the province of the West Indies, Howard Gregory, says they are on board, but it takes a community to stop a pandemic.
I want to appeal also to religiously committed persons, but also to our nation, to think in terms of our responsibility to ourselves, but also to our community. Our Christian faith speaks to our love of God, but also our love of neighbor, our social responsibility. One of the things we are wrestling with at this point is what is the implication of vaccine hesitancy for our children and their return to school. We need to think seriously about how inaction and the consequences of this for our children. We need to think also of the consequences for others. This country will not be able to see its economic life return to vibrancy until persons, and a much larger number of persons, take the vaccine. So that is something that we need to pay attention to.
Head of the Roman Catholic Church, Archbishop Kenneth Richards says Jamaicans must take the responsible approach in their response to the crisis.
The facts are before us. The positivity rate is increasing alarmingly. More persons are falling seriously ill and dying, and the health services are overburdened, especially by COVID sufferers who have not been vaccinated, who have not been vaccinated, who have not been vaccinated. In addition, our regular worship, work, and school routines have been further curtailed. As the situation worsens, I unite my voice with all church and other leaders in support of the Ministry of Health, that Jamaicans view it as a serious moral obligation to protect others as well as themselves in this great danger of the virulent COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2.
President of the Jamaica Council of Churches, Reverend Newton Dixon, says the trend towards the virus is changing, but it is not fast enough.
What is the most reliable way of returning to a productive and hopeful social setting? We believe the answer to that question is a population that has sufficiently protected itself against a virulent, powerful, and lethal virus. And so it seems to us in the Council that the answer then, in addition to maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, and sanitization, it seems the best option is the vaccination. And so we commend to our people the understanding that we are interconnected, our interrelatedness as human beings and as Christians, that understanding demands we act in the interest of the common good.
Dr. Tufton, in his comments, says the voice of the clergy in hammering home the necessity for people to get vaccinated was even more critical, given the increase in deaths, hospitalizations, and the illnesses. Melvin Pennant, PBCJ News.
Pan American Health Organization PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etienne says the COVID-19 Delta variant has become the dominant strain in the Americas. She's urging Caribbean nationals to bear in mind that now is not the time to become complacent.
COVID infections and deaths are rapidly rising across the Caribbean. Puerto Rico, Jamaica, and Cuba continue an increasing trend in both cases and deaths, while in Trinidad and Tobago, weekly deaths continue to rise. In Jamaica, cases rose by 49% and deaths increased by 70%. We are seeing very steep rises in Dominica, Martinique, and Guadeloupe.
Dr. Etienne says the situation in Haiti is even more concerning following the impact of a 7.2 magnitude earthquake over the weekend and the passage of Tropical Storm Grace this week. She says 24 health facilities have been damaged.
PAHO and the international community have activated teams in Haiti to support all aspects of the health response. And we, PAHO, are fully committed to help Haiti during this very challenging time.
The PAHO boss says the situation in Haiti and across the region shows just how critical it is to bring the pandemic under control.
Yet across Latin America and the Caribbean, just 1 in 5 people have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. And in some countries, fewer than 5% of people have been fully vaccinated. While PAHO is working actively to change this disparity, it will take months until our region has access to the vaccines that it so desperately needs.
The central bank has signaled a tightening of its monetary policy. One move is to have its interest rate fixed at 0.50 per annum. We get this plus other regular market updates in this extended business report with Gabriel Thompson.
The Bank of Jamaica BOJ says it will hold the policy interest rate unchanged at 0.5% per annum. This is the rate offered to deposit-taking institutions on overnight placements with the central bank. The bank's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, will in September begin a tightening of the monetary policy. The bank says it will immediately implement other measures aimed at moderating inflation expectations, including the containment of Jamaican dollar liquidity expansion. At its August 17 and 18 meetings, the MPC noted that recent significant increases in international commodity prices will cause inflation in Jamaica to temporarily breach the upper limit of the bank's target range from as early as the September 2021 quarter. While the bank does not target any specific level of the exchange rate, it says it will also seek to ensure that movements in the exchange rate do not threaten the inflation target. Monetary policy decisions taken by the central bank are aimed at ensuring that the annual increase in the prices of consumer goods and services, called inflation, remains within the bank's inflation target of 4% to 6%. Conditional on the gradual tightening of the monetary accommodation, inflation is projected to remain at 5% over the medium term. The next policy decision announcement date is September 30, 2021. In Thursday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index declined by 454 points to close at over 419,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 96 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 45 declined, and 12 traded firm. The Junior Market Index advanced by 9 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and CAC 2000 9.5% preference shares. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 1834 Investments Limited, and Fosrich Company Limited. Paramount Trading Jamaica Limited was the volume leader with over 17.2 million units, followed by Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited USD with over 12.9 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 12.7 million units. In foreign exchange trading for Thursday, August 19, the US dollar sold for an average $154.57. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $121.44. The pound sterling traded for $210.81, and the euro sold for an average $181.72. In market data for oil, prices were down for a seventh straight session on Friday near three-month lows and heading for a weekly loss of over 7% as new lockdowns in countries facing surging cases of the COVID-19 Delta variant dampened the outlook for fuel demand. Brent crude fell $1.08 to $65.37 a barrel, down 7% for the week. West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.07 to $62.62 a barrel, down over 8% for the week. And on that note, we close this extended edition of the Business Report Inside the News on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
Over now to regional news. The bell has been rung. Voters will head to the polls on September 16 to decide the next government of the Bahamas. Our news, Bahamas, had live team coverage of Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis's announcement.
Good evening, Kyle.
Christina, it was the announcement of a snap election pretty much everyone saw coming, and it came after weeks and months of speculation and on a pretty historic day for the FNM, 29 years since its major election win in 1992.
It is time for you, the people, to choose who you will elect to form the next government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
In a not-so-surprising address, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis called a snap election set for September 16th. His announcement came an hour after Police Commissioner Paul Roll, in his capacity as Provost Marshal, read a proclamation for the dissolution of Parliament.
That Parliament shall be and is hereby dissolved on the 19th day of August 2021.
With the race now on, Minnis says this is about leading the country out of the COVID-19 pandemic.
It is now time for the Bahamian people to choose who they want to lead them as we move towards vaccinating every Bahamian who wishes to be vaccinated.
With PMH on the brink of collapse and Doctors Hospital in a position where it's now deciding who gets a ventilator, the country is in the midst of a health crisis. Now a general election is 4 weeks away.
We have a long tradition of peaceful elections. Let us continue that proud tradition.
This is a different Minister from the campaign trail. In 2017, he campaigned for a fixed election date. Fast forward to 2021, and the order of the day is a snap election. The Bahamas has not re-elected a government since 1997 when the FNM won by a landslide. During his address, Minister stressed the strides his administration has made during the pandemic. But in the end, he stressed the importance of the democratic process and Bahamians ultimately deciding who will lead the country forward come September 16th.
In our democratic tradition, the people rule. Your collective wisdom will decide our way forward. Your collective wisdom will decide our shared future. All political parties should conduct their campaigns in keeping with public health guidelines.
Now Parliament reopens on October 6th. In the meantime, the Prime Minister has a national address scheduled for this Sunday. We're live in Parliament Square. Kyle Joaquin, Our News.
In sports, Ralford Mullings, a standout for Kingston College, is representing Jamaica in the discus field event at the World Under-20 Athletics Championships now underway in Nairobi, Kenya. We catch up with him in our continuing Meet the Athlete series with Marlon Samuels.
The Kingston College Issa Boys Champs Class 1 champion is ranked second in the World Under-20 rankings in the discus with a personal best throw of 66.61 meters.
I'm trying my best. I've been training for 2 years for this meet. For about a week. I've been training 2 years for a week, so definitely I'm just trying to compete to the best and retain the title.
Ralford Mullings is committed to making himself and Jamaica proud in Nairobi.
It's a lot of pressure because I'm carrying the nation, trying to be a grand ambassador for the nation and just compete to the best of my abilities, and hopefully I'll come up with the win.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
And with that, we're out of here. You have just watched the news right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.